Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this, our seventh ACG Watch Party. My name is Matthew Hinsley. I am Executive Director of Austin Classical Guitar. It is such a pleasure to get to share this evening with you and to talk about one of the most important, one of the deepest, most profound programs that we have here at Austin Classical Guitar. This is our 10th year involved with the juvenile justice system. And so we will do a deep dive on this program tonight. And our goal for the evening is to give you insights into how the work happens, some of the results of the work, and to hear from many different voices along the way. Before we get into all of that, I would like to say on behalf of all of us at Austin Classical Guitar that I hope you are well. I hope your families are well. We hope that you are finding reasons to smile and laugh every day, reasons to get inspired. And we hope that your experiences here at Austin Classical Guitar help that along as well. What's going to happen is we're going to spend about an hour talking with our guests, with our live guests, and seeing a few amazing videos and sharing some stories and insights around this program. And then at around 8 o'clock, we will answer your questions. So if you're watching through the austinclassicalguitar.org website, then at the bottom right side of your screen, you will have a little icon that says Let's Connect. And that's where you can click that and you can enter your questions and comments there. And we'll be reviewing those after the program is over at 8 o'clock and answering some of those questions, responding to some of your comments. So please chime in at any time throughout the course of the show. If you'd like to blow up the screen, you can do that by hitting the full screen mode in the lower right-hand corner of the YouTube pane that that you're watching this show through. We have just one more event in our 29th season at Austin Classical Guitar, and that will be our season finale on Saturday, the 30th of May. We are going to be announcing it soon, so stay tuned to our newsletter or to our website or any of our social media channels, and you can join us then. Uh, so many things have to come together in order to make a program like this happen, from the funding to make the program possible to the many staff members in different facilities, people at the city level, the county level, and in the school district as well as our own team. And this is complicated work, and it's also important uh, and weighty work as anything related to education or involving the welfare of young people is concerned. So there are many, many inputs. Our goal tonight is to give you insight into how all of those elements come together and the thoughtfulness around them and some of the results that happen when these programs work. Classical guitar and juvenile justice are not necessarily two things that most people think of as going together, and so we would like to kind of shed some light on the beauty that can result from this kind of a program. So we're going to be talking about our partners throughout the course of this evening. But I would like to thank five key donors that have helped to make this program possible. They are the Cain Foundation, the Kaman Foundation, Texas Bar Foundation, the Texas Commission on the Arts, and the Wright Family Foundation. So huge thanks to all of them. Thanks to all of you and to our guests that we're going to be introducing over the course of the evening. Now, to help take us through this whole story is our director of our juvenile justice services, also our assistant director of education. This is a man who has been on our team since 2008. He has been chiefly responsible for a lot of the on the ground work in our education systems programming that is now in almost all 50 states in the United States. and in more than 50 schools here just in Central Texas. So he has been very busy building school programs broadly for us and has taken over this program for about the last 6 or 7 years and done incredible things with it. A dear friend, Mr. Jeremy Osborne. Let's go ahead and welcome him to the show. And there he is. Hey, Jeremy, good evening.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for that introduction. So, my name is Jeremy Osborne, and as Matt said, I'm the Assistant Director of Education for Austin Classical Guitar. And I've had the privilege of doing some just really just amazing work, really innovative work surrounding music education and classical guitar pedagogy. And I never would have thought that this would have been an opportunity to get into doing this type of work and just how powerful it actually is. Um, at Austin Classical Guitar, like our mission statement that we developed a few years ago is Austin Classical Guitar's mission is to inspire individuals in the communities we serve through musical experiences of deep personal significance. So this serves as a blanket statement for all of our programming, but it also serves as just a powerful starting point that we organize all the many components and goals in any of our programs. That goes for our international concert series, lullaby, music and healing, and in this case, our juvenile justice programs. So the community that we serve here, and I've thought a lot about how I like to describe this to people. Um, is that we work with kids that do not have the support system in their lives that a lot of us really take for granted. And I'm meaning like your obviously your parents and your family, or just mentors, aunts and uncles, just people that are there to like get in your face sometimes and give you love and tough love. And but what that really serves is it filters out choices. um, they filter it out to maybe three choices. You have choice A, B, or C. And, A is going to be the easiest choice. You're going to slide right through. B is going to be a little difficult, but you're going to learn some things. Choice C, you're going to fall flat on your face, but it's just going to be a pivotal moment in your life and a real turning point. But each of those choices are rarely catastrophic or just lead to trouble or lead to things where you would get stuck. And most of these kids don't have that. So when you have choice A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, and then all over again, majority of those choices are gonna lead to them getting stuck. And those are the types of kids that we work with there. They're smart. They're so much fun to be around. They do such really just amazing things. So, but what we do with them is we have them experience joyful music making the first day that we see them. We aim to use that joyful experience to impart artistry and mastery. Then we give them a platform to express what they have learned through performance, and then celebrate the success and hard work that they achieve. And when you do this, especially the performance part, that kind of is the capstone to what kind of triggers the development of a tool set that helps an individual connect with their humanity and empathy. I mean, this is essential soulful nutrition for anyone, but in the case of these kids, it really becomes kind of a starting point, or it can be help build the cornerstone for their healing and rehabilitation. So before we like get really into the weeds with this, I think it's probably important for us just to start with a performance from one of these kids. Last summer, we piloted a program with Williamson County, so we extended our services up to the neighboring county just north of Travis County to work with a facility up there. And this program is carried on through the fall and in the spring. The kids take the class for credit. But like many of our colleagues, especially all of our education colleagues, with the times that we're facing, we left for spring break and didn't realize that we weren't going to come back. So we've had to all adjust to doing this distance learning, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I haven't exactly enjoyed it, but there's also some things that come out of it. But this young man, before we left for the spring break, we had just started solos, and he just kind of, I think, just took to it really quickly. And this was the first day that I was coming back to teach at Williamson County over the internet, and I was just dreading it. And he just sat down and played this end to end, um, and I was just immediately just floored and inspired, and just went right to work, just giving him spirited feedback. And um,
Mm.
but it's just we'd really like to share it with you. And we were thankfully to Ryan McDowell up at Williamson County. He was kind enough to go in and snap this video for us. And it's a rare thing that we get to share things like this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. He's playing Legend, arranged by our own Matt Hinsley. So.
Oh my gosh, Jeremy, he just nails that performance. I love it so much. That's not an easy piece either. There's a bunch of stuff that he's doing there. And I just want to point out at the very end of that video, the video pans up and you see the word on the wall behind him is spark. Now, keep that in your mind, because that spark word is going to come back a little bit later when we have a chance to interview the director of the Williamson County Juvenile Services, Mr. Scott Matthew. He's going to say a few words, and the spark is going to be one of those words. So I'll just jump in with a quick overview. So this program has been going on for 10 years. This is one of the only programs in the nation that is a daily for-credit program offered through the school district. And that's a really important thing, because it is a completely different, it's a level of interaction that we have on a daily basis. The program didn't start that way in 2010 because we kind of were introduced through a school of social work professor, and began sort of an out of school time approach to teaching the classes and enrichment program. But by 2012, Austin Independent School District partnered with us to offer this program as a for-credit program, and it's been that way ever since. So it's a rigorous program. There are performance expectations and outputs throughout, and we were very fortunate to have that model going into the Williamson County partnership, and the Georgetown Independent School District was able to join with us and with Williamson County Juvenile Services to offer this as a for-credit fine arts credit as well, which is a requirement for the kids in the state of Texas. And so there's a lot of different benefits all rolled in. But this is a program that's been going on for 10 years. We've been seeing kids almost every single school day for 10 years. And that really gives an opportunity for some deep connection, doesn't it, Jeremy?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the general strength of our guitar classes, and just in regular schools as well, is that we take the best practices of band, orchestra, choir, and apply it to the guitar. But what's remarkable about those types of those types of classes is that it builds community. Like friends, the kids become friends in those classes, and they're friends for life. Mm. And it's still the same partially in when we're working with the kids in the juvenile justice programs. When I first started, it was my first year. We were getting ready for our very first concert, and I was, I was freaked out over everything. Just being there, making sure I was doing a good job, and making sure I was asking permission from the right people. but we were able to open up for the court-appointed special advocates, and we were performing in the large courtroom at the facility. And all my kids, I was able to get them all out to be able to perform. And we went into the large courtroom before everyone came in, and just kind of warming up. And a handful of the kids, earlier I said, like, if you're nervous, it means you're human. It's good. I'm human. I'm human too, and I'm very nervous. And of course, a handful of the kids say, like, "No, I'm not. I'm not gonna get nervous, Mr. Osborne. I don't get nervous." And then as soon as we got in that room and started warming up, sure enough, they were nervous. And because one of the kids actually like pulled at me and said, Mr. Osborne, do you know that Our Father prayer? And I'm still kind of freaked out because this is my first time doing this, and we've already gone through a bunch of corridors to get to the courtroom. So I was disoriented, and but I panicked because I'm there as a secular entity, and this is not like, I don't know if that's okay, but I just went with it, and I said, look, if this is your thing, then I will lead us through this, but do not feel obligated to do so if not. And so I just said, okay, let's just bow our heads, and everyone bowed their heads. And as soon as that happened, the staff that escorted us into the room and were supervising us, they all gasped at the same time, and we went through that prayer. And then we opened up the doors, and they came out and just played an amazing concert. But the significance of that is that up until that point, there were a couple of those kids in each of those classes that weren't supposed to be in the same room together because they would fight, or they would just go. There'd be significant behavior issues, and fortunately, county took a leap of faith on us and allowed us to bring them in. But I think what's so significant is that in that moment, they were not thinking about any of those preconceptions of that other person. Mm-hmm. They were united by the goal of performing something beautiful that they know each and every person on that stage put in the same amount of work. So it's just a great story that I love telling. I'm sure some people have heard it a billion times, but I want to take a minute and just introduce another person and to come in and give some commentary to this conversation. And this is a person that's been with us from the beginning. He's a major reason why we have this program at ISC, and he's not only just somebody that kind of gets a lot done over there. He's also a mentor to a lot of us, and he's taught me a lot about how to work with these kids. I'd come in. There's countless times I've come into his office just kind of freaking out about something, and he usually calms me down and gives me some good strategies. And he's the guidance counselor for the Leadership Academy, the AISD Leadership Academy, but he very much is kind of like the person that guides all the faculty and staff there. So I would like to invite Kim Anderson to join us.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, wow, that was a good introduction. I'm one of so many people at that facility who is there for is there for the kids, and it's hokey, but it's so true. And there's such a good community spirit, and the things Matt was talking about, and what Jeremy's doing in there. It's such a huge part of the turnaround that we try to facilitate at that, in this building. These kids come here, they're, that the story about the Lord's Prayer, and finding that moment of quiet where the voices, the doubts, the fear, the fronting, all that gets paused, for just a period of time. These are like little miracles. I mean, the noise that goes on in these kids' heads, to be able to take a moment and to express themselves, through this music and this, to be doing something with their hands and the guitar and to be expressing themselves and to immerse themselves in it. Isn't that anything we all want, right? That moment of Zen, that meditative experience. It's such a big part of what we talk about nowadays about, finding a quiet place, and especially in these times of heightened anxiety, in pandemic times and remote learning and all these things that are just making an already difficult life a little harder. These boys and girls getting this opportunity, it's just priceless. I've been there since '07, and when I started, I was a science teacher there at the time, and I would pass by the hallway and I would see the guitar class going on. This was in the evening. I'd be working late, doing some paperwork or whatever, and I'd pass by, when you're a teacher as opposed to a school counselor or any other, part of a leadership team or administrative role, you focus on your class. And so I didn't have that big picture mentality yet. There were so many things going on that I didn't understand, and that was just one more thing. But as I took on more of a role in the school and saw the things that were going on, it's been such an enjoyable part of my job to help Jeremy and ACG every chance I can.
Thank you so much, Kim. I mean, you're working with Jeremy. I'm not in there personally, but I'm hearing about you all the time and all of the great things that you make possible. Can you give folks? I mean, I'm not sure that people have a clear idea of kind of what how many people are involved in sort of a young person's uh, kind of recovery path, case plan, that sort of thing. Are there? There seems like there's a few people involved in each case.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely an understatement, Matt. The team, at the Gardner Betts facility here in Travis County, it starts when the kids, first come in. They're picked up by, APD for, anything from truancy to parole violation to or probation violation rather, to much more serious crimes. Some of them, horrible. Some of them you're with the kids, and I spend hours and hours with them. I'm like, I can't believe you did that. And then they're in a detention facility, and they're assessed by a psychologist. We take reading assessments, fluency. And then they're adjudicated by a judge over to the long-term facility if after, and this is really after, probably half a dozen arrests and incarcerations of short duration until finally, the judge, they get a lot of opportunities. I have to say, they really do. I love the kids, but they get a lot of chances, and it's good. And a lot of them will not end up in this long-term facility, but the ones that do are the ones that really need the help, and that's when the judges find that and they adjudicate them to the long-term facility where Jeremy is at, and what we're talking about. And from there, it just the amount of support, it gets embedded over the period of 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And they have a treatment team and a care coordinator. And so, you were talking about licensed mental health counselors, chemical addiction specialists, psychologists. They have access to a psychiatrist, and many of them are unmedicated or they've been self-medicating, using illicit drugs.
Mhm.
And so there's so much that goes on, and my role in there is to find this, these students who they've slipped through the system. They've moved. When I look at their enrollment history, they've moved. I can tell by their schools, of course, 6, 7 times, 8 times in a year or 2 years. No, very few of us would be successful in those situations. And so, undiagnosed reading disabilities, math calculation disabilities, dysgraphia, dyslexia, emotional disturbance. So,
So Kim, can you? I mean, this is very helpful, and I would think for anyone who's new to this environment, I think it's very helpful. Can you give me like the briefest version of how you think? Um, uh, where does guitar fit into that? I mean,
yeah,
we don't have to go deep on that, but I'm curious from your perspective on that.
yeah. Thanks, Matt. It fits in so well because it's an expression. It is so these are kids, and they come in, and what Jeremy does. These are not kids who like signed up like, oh, I can't wait to take guitar. I'm gonna express myself. No, that
Mhm.
is not. That's not what Jeremy's getting at all. That's not what
Mhm.
any teacher who comes in our facility gets. It is the most reluctant student at times,
Yeah.
and fighting themselves the whole way.
Yeah.
Just being obstinate and not even knowing why.
Mhm.
Just so much trauma and so much embedded uh, disturbance. And so having an outlet, to it's like a prism. All
Wow.
this light is shining through these children because they're children, and
Mhm.
they really do.
Mm.
They're children. They care. They're hurt so bad. And this prism that guitar and its artistry is able to focus, and spread out in the most beautiful way. It really, it's impactful. It's
Wow.
very, very impactful.
Thank you, Kim. Jeremy, if it's okay with you, I think we're going to roll that PBS clip real quick. We're just going to see a,
Absolutely.
a piece of a news story that was done, but I think it's important to watch it right on the heels of what you just said, Kim, because it'll give us a little bit of insight in the words of a young person, about their experience preparing for a concert, and then how they felt afterward, and then we can chat about that. So let's roll that
Right.
PBS NewsHour short clip.
Last May, they got the opportunity to perform here for the court-appointed Special Advocates of Travis County swearing-in ceremony.
We got in the courtroom, they played beautifully, just amazing playing. Like they got 2 standing ovations, and they were in their court clothes, and they looked super professional, and they sounded professional, and they were just completely elated with themselves.
Oh man, I was scared on that because I was the only person that played my solo that day. I was nervous. I was like, man, if I mess up in front of all these people. But I played it good.
Prior to joining the program, Peter was a high school dropout. This fall, he'll attend San Jacinto College to study music production.
I mean, I dropped out 10th grade. I didn't go back until I got locked up. I would have never took guitar without being here, so my mom's excited. Usually, if she heard something about me, it was always bad. And it feel good to have something good, like graduating high school, learning how to play the guitar, going to school. Now it's just, every time she sees me, she just smiles. I'm sure her cheeks hurt by now.
So that was Peter, and he was part of that one of those first classes that I got to teach. And I think we talk about the transformation that can happen with these kids, and I think it's important to drive the point home that, from our music education perspective, this is what happens when you teach for mastery. Any kid's going to love a subject if they realize that their teacher loves the subject, um, and but you also teach them past just trying to get them a grade. Um, but I think for also for a lot of this transformation to happen, it's not just the guitar, it's not just the music class. There is an army, just a ton of people that are behind these kids every day. Their staff that are in the room all the time with us. They're basically like the moms, dads, aunts, uncles, like for these kids while they're there, and they really just do some magical things. I think there's misconceptions about the type of work sometimes that goes on there, but everybody is just doing everything they can to advocate for these kids. And I just want to take a second also to thank all of them, all the staff at Williamson County and at Travis County that I work with. I know we have like a few coordinators that are watching, and hopefully some staff I think got the invite to be here. But know that these are the shoulders that we stand on when we talk about this work. It's not possible without them. So
Yeah, I got to totally back that up. I've been a teacher in this facility and a school counselor now, and I tell you what, nothing's possible without those staffs. Whether we call them residential treatment officers and detention treatment officers and lots of different names. But taking using that example of Peter, Peter's a really bright kid, really
Mhm.
bright, but he came in with an attitude where you I, even if he could perform, he wasn't gonna. And it's teachers like Jeremy and our staff and our teachers that are able to show enough love and caring. And Jeremy mentioned that they're going to work because you love it, not because they love it. It's not intrinsic. That's a real important
Mm.
key thing about teaching students in these facilities. They have to see your love for it, and they do it for you.
That's
Yeah.
one of those powerful things about music, I think, is that it's a powerful medium without words to generate in and of itself something that you can get excited about. We can share together, and in the right hands, in the hands of the right teacher, that's magic can happen. Jeremy, I understand you've got
Yeah.
another little performance to
So
share here.
I figured since we got to hear Peter talk a little bit, that I was fortunately at the time, like I was able to bring in, from time to time I can bring in recording gear and get some audio samples from the kids. And Peter mentioned that he was the only person to play his solo that day on that performance, and he actually plays a beautiful interpretation of Snow Flight by Andrew York.
Hmm.
And which is always a hit with some of these kids too. So, but we have a little bit of audio, I think, with the collage, so you can hear him actually play this. So
Beautiful. Oh, that's such a beautiful performance. And one of the things that I love hearing are all of the details in there. And I know none of those happen on accident, right? Those details of getting softer at the ends of phrases and growing as the music gets higher. These are all things that were learned and taught and practiced and then conveyed in that performance. And it even comes through that beautiful recording. Next up, we have our first external interview here. I did 3 interviews that we're going to share with y'all tonight. And the first that we're going to share is with Mr. Scott Matthew, who is the Executive Director of Juvenile Services for Williamson County. And so Mr. Matthew just shares a few little insights about their philosophy there at Williamson County and how guitar kind of plays into that. So it's about a 5-minute interview. We'll have a listen to that, and we'll come back and chat when it's done. Here we go.
So you don't have a very long time to make a huge impact. And so what I've asked our organization to do, and all of our employees, probation officers, counselors, and everyone, is to delve in, try to figure out what sparks these kids have, what are their interests, and develop your relationship based on those things. Meet them where they are, and then through that, connect them to folks in the community who can help support that in their growth beyond our services, because we're only going to be there for a very short period of time. for us, if we can find something, an outlet for them, again, their spark, it goes back to spark. For us, what that is most of the time is sports, music, or art, for most all young people, and try to make a connection there and connect them to folks in the community, again, who can help support that and give them a sense of that they do matter and that what they care about matters. I think that's the important work that we do, and I think that's lasting.
Is there anything else you think people should know as far as your philosophy, or is that pretty much cover what it is that you're trying to how you're best trying to help the kids that are there during their time with you?
So I would say that one of the things that I've observed over 30 years in this business is that the kids that come to us all they share a common theme. Not many of them have ever shared success, or do they know what that feels like or looks like. And you can see that even when we have concerts and these kids have really achieved some great things and people are clapping and they feel so good about what the kids have accomplished. And you'll see that our kids generally will just kind of almost wilt a little bit, like they don't deserve that kind of respect and admiration and grace and everything. And I think that's, whether it's sporting events or whatever it is, it's almost like they've been set up to fail over and over again. And so that becomes the expectation. And they don't really know how to relish the moment. And I know at one of your concerts, and the place was filled, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room, including my own, at the end of the concert. And I walked up to some of the kids and I just reminded them, I said, hey, be in the moment, enjoy this. You all are the center of attention. You all have worked really, really hard. You've had an excellent performance. Soak this up. This is what life's all about. Feel good about this. I think what is really important for people to know is that you said it, classical guitar and juvenile justice don't always sound like a great partnership. But I will say this, you all have an amazing organization, and you have some, it's easy to see that they're very talented musically, but you also have some people that are just gifted in connecting. And that for me is the bigger thing, the thing that's most important. I mean, you win over the hearts and minds of the kids, and you do that on your own. It's not that we're in here saying, hey, you're going to go learn classical guitar. You connect with them and they want to learn classical guitar. They want to be involved, and they want to do a good job. I really hats off to Austin Classical Guitar for the way that you all connect and work with our kids.
So you may have already said this, you talked about a concert in particular, but do you have a memory or a particular moment that you can think of that stands out to you from observing a concert or talking to a kid about the guitar?
I've gone to, several of the concerts, but the first one is the one I'll be honest, I was a little reluctant because I don't know that much about classical guitar myself. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, what's this going to be like? And I walked in the gym and the kids were each playing individually. And I was like, just blown away that, a few months ago, these are the same kids who would curse you out and were unhappy, not you, but our organization, that were unhappy about where they are. And I had this, thought at the moment, and I was thinking to myself, as bad as it is to have to be referred for committing some sort of offense or behaving badly, what a blessing it is for these kids to have this opportunity at this point in time. And, that's overwhelming for me.
Yeah, what a fantastic description of how impactful this opportunity is for these kids. Let me share a quick story. I was in our a Travis County treatment team meeting, which is where their counselors and their probation officer and their staff and their unit coordinator, all these people get together and are talking about these young people and every aspect of their life and whether they have a bed to come home to when they get released, all the way to learning disabilities. Anyway, so this one student who Jeremy had been working with, had lived a very hard life before they came into the facility, and human trafficking and homelessness and salvaging for food, dumpster diving, all these things were part of this young person's life, 16 years old. And what they had been doing is using the skills that Jeremy and ACG had taught them to write songs, to express themselves, to write lyrics about this life, to be able to let it out. And it is a blessing.
Hmm. Well, and well, speaking of blessings, I think I'd like to introduce the next interview that Matt was able to do for us, and this is with Judge Darlene Byrne, and she is another figure that's kind of been at least involved in my experience from the beginning. She oversees the swearing in ceremonies of the court-appointed special advocates. She works with some of the kids that are in our programs, and she also oversees the kids that are in the foster program as well. She's just such a delightful human being and has so much insight into this arena. And just every time I hear her speak, I learn something new and feel just overly inspired all over again. So we could just cue up the interview with Darlene Byrne, and we'll share it with you right now.
Is there a role? What is the role of something gentle, something expressive, like music or art or drama, even in the treatment of kids as they're going through their process in the juvenile justice system?
I consider it healing. I think that in all of us, there is some poet, artist, desiring to emerge, but maybe not knowing how, not ever being exposed to those that can find that nugget in us and nurture it. And I think that what I see in Austin classical guitar with our young people is these young people are no different than my children at my home or your children, if you have them, in that they want to belong, they want to be unique, doing something cool, something different. Music speaks to all of us, I think, all across the planet. It's just a thing that is a common language for all of us. And the beauty of what I'm seeing in Austin classical guitar as it marries with the kids that I serve is they're finally being defined by this beautiful thing and not the worst thing that they've ever done. And being able to redefine them and see themselves as redefined is very healing, very healing.
I always love hearing Judge Byrne talk. Every interaction I've ever had with her has just been just so amazing, and she's seen just about every one of these kids' concerts as well. But she brings up this point of transformation, and I think it's worth talking about that. Like, that doesn't necessarily happen because the art form of classical guitar is so great. I think one thing that is worth mentioning is that we have to learn how to meet these kids where they're at. And I know, like, my mentor Travis Markham, we talk a lot about this. How we don't call our classes classical guitar ensemble. We just call it guitar class. We just happen to use the technique to play music, and we do arrangements of. Right now I've got some kids doing an arrangement of Dr. Dre. We do, we've done where we pull up corridos, working on just everything, things that the kids bring to the table that we think is we can sequence it appropriately. But what happens is you kind of flip a switch somewhere, and I know that this flip switch isn't going to be the absolute thing that saves them, but at the same time, it starts to develop kind of what I was talking about in the beginning. My goal is, I teach kids to the level where I want them to have all the skills that they could have to become a concert guitarist. That I teach to that bullseye, but that's not actually what I'm trying to do. But it's through teaching to that bullseye that allows all these other things to happen. I'm less inclined for them to be a concert guitarist, although it's great. And I've had plenty of students go on to be concert guitarists, but really what I get up in the morning for is the fact that we're able to open up a relationship to art. So a way a kid can kind of navigate these things for themselves. But I think this is a good way to set up the story of this next thing. This is something that, I get to tell this story a lot, but it's also a pretty amazing a piece of art that I've had the fortune of receiving. But I had a student about 3 years into my work with Travis County, and it was a kid that came in. He already had prior experience on the guitar. He already could play. He could play chords. He could play bar chords. He could do everything. And usually, you'd think someone like that coming in with a lot of talent already is an asset. But it's, those of you that teach classical guitar or just guitar ensemble, it can be kind of a nightmare, because now you've got like an ego that you have to change, because they're doing great things, but they're not doing them as well as they possibly could be doing, and they don't, because of their age, they're not going to see the validity in some of the things that you tell them. But I immediately started butting heads with this kid to the importance of music literacy, how to hold his right hand, put the guitar in his left leg, and told him why we're doing this. He eventually relented, and he went on to just become an amazing guitarist, and easily one of the most talented kids I've ever come across in my career. Just within 2 months of kind of changing some habits and things, he became like the star student that we had over there. And he came in one day and told me, he said, sir, they're going to take me out of guitar class. And I said, what, why? And he said, well, they say that I'm playing guitar too much. And in my head, I was like, hold on. Okay. Like, is that really what they're saying? He said, yeah. And I immediately said, okay, well, let me go talk with your unit coordinators and some of your team and find out what's going on. And sure enough, that he just wasn't. He was playing all the time, but he wasn't, keeping up with some of his behavioral treatment stuff. And his counselors kind of told me about it, and at first you're thinking, oh, here's this thing that's good for this kid, and now it's being used as a contingency, but it's the whole point of why we're there. So I came up to him the next class, and I said, I talked with your counselor and I talked with your unit coordinator, and you've been slacking on some of this stuff that you're really here to do. Like, this is to give you, this is for you, not for them. If you're not going to be working on your treatment, then I don't want you in this guitar class, because I want you to be, I want everyone in here to be working towards goals to better themselves. And if this is a contingency for you, then I'm going to absolutely stand with your treatment team, because it's really important. It's important that you're a great guitarist, but it's important that you have a future to do some things outside of it. Okay, when you get out. So summer went by. I hadn't, we don't do the class over the summer over there. I came back in the fall, and one of the staff that I spent a lot of time with, as soon as I came in onto the unit, he came over to me. He said, "Mr. Osborne, you come see what so and so did." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh my God!" So he pulls me into his unit because they're at lunch, and he shows me, and he's made this paper mache guitar with a stand. This is not the one that I'm referring to, but it was like this kind of like his first attempt with this thing. And he made a case and a guitar, And I was just blown away by the detail. And I told him, I asked him, I was like, you gotta let me borrow that so I can just show it to we can feature it before one of our concerts or whatever. And he was really coy about it, and never really gave me a straight answer if I could borrow it. And a few weeks later, he comes into class holding something behind his back, and he pulls out this paper guitar just for me. It's perfectly to scale. It's got a Spanish heel and everything, and it's made out of rolled up copier paper and Scotch tape, and he put my name across the front of it. And I think there's a multitude of things that I think that happened with my relationship with him that we were able to kind of at least let him find some sort of voice to where he could express himself, not just with music. And he found a way to do it brilliantly with visual art. But to this day, it's probably one of the most incredible things I've ever been given from anybody. And we still have it up at the office. It's still, it's starting to show some wear over the years, but we have plenty of pictures of it if you want to see some more detail of it. It's really a remarkable thing. So, yeah.
Beautiful, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's certainly a treasure of ours for sure. It's not so much of what we've been talking about has to do with how people feel, with experiences that they've had and how those experiences weigh on them in their psyche, and how we can get at issues of confidence and identity and security and all those things you can't see. They're all invisible things. And when you make an impact on somebody personally, emotionally, that's a lot of times something you can't see either. And so that paper guitar, for me, is one of those physical, visible manifestations of impact. That's a special treasure indeed. We have just one more interview we're going to share with you tonight. And as I said, about 8 o'clock, we're going to wrap things up here. So we've got another performance we're going to show you as well. But we have one more interview. Be thinking about questions and comments you might want to share with us through the chat, either in YouTube or through our website chat, through our Let's Connect chat button. So yesterday morning, I had the wonderful privilege of getting to speak with Grammy-nominated artist, musician, author, inspirational speaker, Saul Paul. And Saul Paul has been a friend for a long time of the organization. He is a guitarist, as you'll find out, and so much more. And so let's let him tell a little bit of his story and talk just a little bit about his passion for this subject area, and then we'll come back and chat a little bit more after that. Do you have any insight into just the kinds of challenges that kids are facing these days?
Life was hard in general. I think it's just the creation of time. Life has been hard for kids. With the internet, that made it challenging. And specifically in this COVID-19 era, it's even more challenging. Myself, my story is I grew up in foster youth. My mom died when I was 3. My dad abandoned me. I was in foster care. I grew up in the ghetto. I got arrested by the FBI when I was 17. I went to the penitentiary when I was 20. Got out the penitentiary, went to UT and graduated. So I know what it is to be an ex-felon, to be one that was incarcerated. And was incarcerated a couple times. And I've been through a lot in life. It would really suck right now to be incarcerated because it's not safe. For all the reasons that the world is in a unique space right now, like those are the reasons that, like, they don't get that benefit. They can't even practice all the things that lead to protecting yourself during the season. And so they have to deal with that individually. And then as a whole, they don't have like family and community around. So it's very challenging for youth in general, and more so incarcerated or detained youth in this season.
You know, sometimes when I talk about music in juvenile detention, is sort of like a head turner for people, because I think a lot of people don't associate something expressive, gentle, artistic with any kind of an experience that kids might have in detention. And I'm wondering if you have thoughts about the role of music might be in helping somebody to find a path.
The work that ACG does is amazing. Music is magical, and it provides an opportunity to express oneself when your voice has been taken away. With the young people being able to express themselves and have a voice, even though there are so many other limiting factors around them, is amazing. The program is great because it's not just an instrument, but it's the mentors, it's the instructors, it's them, it's their heart. I remember being in prison, and when you're detained, when you don't have your freedom, you can't go freely and go where you want to go when you want to go. When you're locked up, all you want to do is be free. So it stands out that all you want to do is leave, and then you have a music instructor or a volunteer or a mentor coming to you. Like, I don't know if people can, like, how much people can appreciate that, but that's like the next level. Like, all you want to do is leave, and it's like, okay, here she goes, here he goes. Like, they're coming. This is mind blowing. And really, that's an expression of love. And it's not, oh, I'm telling you. It's like, I'm showing you.
Seeing Saul Paul when he's come to our facility a few times, and just watching him work with the kids, you see that seed planted. He's got a number of really interesting things he does to get musical in a quick group setting, and just touching base like that, watching the kids react to it. Those are the kind of things that Jeremy and ACG are able to build on, and really just create that pathway to give them voice. Saul Paul is using that expression, giving those kids voice. God, it's a lot of time to be locked up, like you said. When I after the day's over and I'm driving by the facility, sometimes I live near it. I look up at those windows in the building, and I know those kids are there, and you got to stop yourself from just like, I'll call in, I'll stop by. I used to do that when I first started working there. And you have to separate yourself a little bit, because the amount that these kids need is so much. It's so powerful, and the music, it gives them a big part of that.
Thank you so much, Kim. Yeah, what an inspiring guy. And you just said the word music. Saul Paul was incredibly generous yesterday in coming up with a performance for us and actually creating something on the spot for us. Before we roll that, I want to say that he actually just wrote a book, and it's his second book, and it's called Be the Change. And so if you are interested in learning a little bit more of his story, he calls it a memoir. And he's got a fascinating story and a beautiful story. And it's challenging at times, and it's triumphant at other times, and really, really an inspiring story. So that's Be the Change is his new book. It's anywhere you get books. But he has a website at Saul Paul. That's one word, SAULPAUL.com. And so you can learn much more about his artistry. But we're going to get to share just a little tiny bit of it right now. So let's go ahead and roll that song that he recorded.
What would be we need a song topic. So I'm kind of known for, I know it was a thing when it popped up on my Wikipedia page, like making improvisational songs up on the spot. So this song didn't exist before this moment. We'll just make it up. What should it be about? Give me three words, 3 topics to throw in this musical gumbo I'm about to make.
Love, hope, and joy.
Hey. Love, hope, and joy. Love, hope, and joy. I love it. Okay. First up, I will say love. Hey, started from the bottom, but I rose up above. That's the reason why I always give back. Always keep it fresh, just like a tic-tac. Exact. Always hit the cue. I gotta do what I gotta do, even if I can't move and I'm socially isolated. I do what I do every day. I can make it. That's what I tell myself in the mirror. And even when it's blurry, I know it'll get clearer. Everything I just said is like hope. And when haters get to talking, all I ever say is no. I don't listen. Shout out to everybody in Gardner Betts. They don't know. That's the prison. That's right down the street from ATX, bro. You don't even know. I call it so cold. That's South Congress. I feel it's the bombers. That's why I live in. I check it out. Let's get dramatic. I meant to say dramatic. When I skip the freestyling, then I get emphatic. Oh, I'm about passion. Look at Matt right now. I think that he was laughing. The last word I gotta say is joy. Old school, Mace Cameron, that's old boy. Bad boy, that was just a sample. I could flow abundantly, that would mean ample. But right now, let me chill, no preamble. I'ma stay focused, no need for me to scramble. I freestyle it so I don't have to remember. But I can see on my sweater it says Fender. But my guitar, yeah, that's a Yamaha. I've been going hard representing for my mama, bro. I ain't seen her in a long, long time. I've been freestyling for us like a long, long rhyme. This the part, how I'm going to conclude. Shout out to you, and you, and you, and you. What's up, bro? I am Song Fall. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, ACG. Thank you, ATX, to all the young people, to those that work with young people. Thank you for what you do. You may or may not get to see the benefits of what you do. That's okay. It works. When you do get to see it, that's just like extra. So keep doing what you do. It works. I'm the fruit of it.
Oh my gosh, what a treat. It was just amazing watching him do that on the spot, and then getting to share it with all of you right now is, and see it again, is just absolutely incredible. Well, a huge thanks to all of our guests tonight, to Mr. Scott Matthew, to Judge Darlene Byrne, to Saul Paul, and we're not done with you yet, Kim. We're going to keep talking here. We've got a question and answer coming up. But I hope that, among other things, through this experience, this hour with us, it's clear how many people have to come together for a single purpose in order to make something like this happen. At every level, I think there's a well-known phrase about it taking a village to raise a child. And to me, having been on the inside of this work and knowing all of the people that have to say yes, so many yeses have to happen. And it's amazing because just one no has literally stopped our education programs in many places. It just takes that one person who doesn't believe or doesn't want to or doesn't want to put forward the effort or doesn't think that something like music is important enough, or whatever that is. But it's amazing. It's a miracle to me that for 10 years, Kim, you and all of your colleagues and all the people at Travis County have continually said yes, and so many different levels. I'm just in awe of that really frequently. And so, Jeremy, we got one more little musical treat we're going to share, and then we'll go to people's questions and comments, huh?
For sure. So on that, though, I think, again, thank everyone for joining us this evening. I do want to take a minute to thank Chief Medina and Assistant Chief Daryl Harrison, as well as Chris Arazola. These are folks that really help us make things happen pretty quickly over at Gardner Betts, but also over at and then again all the staff and all of the colleagues at leadership, all my fellow teachers over there, but also again Scott Matthew, Mr. McDowell, Mr. Pena, Ms. Young, and Mr. Fisher over at Williamson County for all their help and support and believing in this program that we started over there last year. It's really been just so exciting and inspiring. So this last little snippet of music is a group playing El Noi de la Mare. It's a short piece, but we'll use it use that time to kind of put your questions in, and that we'll discuss afterwards. But one little story about the piece is there's a kid that's in this ensemble, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I didn't know exactly what had happened with him, and he was actually one of the first where when they got out of Gardner Betts, I went over and worked with them at their home school, but still then ended up losing contact, and I was out pumping gas one day a couple years ago, and this head pops out from the other side of the thing. He goes, "Mr. Osborne, you remember me?" and of course, like I recognized him immediately, and we caught up and hugged and just talked for a while. And he had told me that he had just finished getting his journeyman's license as an electrician. And he was gassing up his truck because he was heading up to work on one of the new developments that was going up in the domain. So not only is he, doing well for himself and probably an amazing electrician and doing quite a trade, he was also a great guitarist. So I hope you guys enjoy hearing these kids play El Noi de la Mare.
Golly, that's beautiful, Jeremy. And what a beautiful song and a perfect way to go out. And what a great story to tell, too. So now is the time for your questions, if you've got them, of this or your comments. I've seen some beautiful things come in. And I wanted to start with some comments that I'm seeing. Judge Byrne was watching, and Judge Byrne made a comment. She said she was so glad to see the guitar at the beginning of the presentation. That is the paper guitar, and how beautiful and reminiscent of that transformative work for kids on my docket. She said, we got another beautiful comment from JR. He says, hello, JR, attorney advocate for Williamson County Core Program. So that's awesome. We've got each of the clips people were commenting on after the very first performance of Legend. Crystal Johnson said you can really see that student is into it. And she came back. Actually, there's an interesting a follow-up after the PBS clip and Peter's comments. She said, speaking of transformation, it is important to acknowledge that the student was able to recognize his fear and still be able to work through it for the performance. It's hard for youth involved in the justice system to recognize that kind of fear. I wonder if either of you have a comment about that.
Well, yeah, let me. So I've been teaching in the Travis County facility and school counseling now, but since '07, and it's definitely it's the primary emotion that they express. Their anger through, their violence through. That fear, that omnipresent fear. Just all the brain science going on today is really kind of it gets in my language a lot. But the amygdala hijack that happens with these students so fast. One of the things we say in the facilities, they go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and that means they go from like, hey, how you doing, to swinging fights, and it's genuine, and it's shocking when you see it, and they also come back to that, so come back to normal surprisingly fast. But yeah, just acknowledging that, that's such a great point, to be aware of that, self-aware, and it's definitely it's part of the language of their healing.
Yeah, I think what we're able to do is just kind of give them a small, controlled exercise, and kind of pushing through that a little bit, because usually our first day of class starts with them playing a piece as an ensemble by rote, and we get all the way through it, and we even practice like bowing and doing everything on the first day.
Wow.
And when we do our first like actual mock performance, and we practice the bow and everything, and I say, all right, congratulations, that's the first piece that's going to be on our program in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And it's usually, I'm usually meted with oh, heck no, that's not what they say. But, I always try to tell them, oh, heck yes, you'll be ready for it. So it's your job to put in the effort. It's my job to make sure that I'm doing the right things with that effort. So, but yeah, they definitely get to take a little plunge into something that we all fear, just getting up in front of people to perform. So
there's another, Mary Lou Rizzo has a really neat insight. She said, I was sworn in as a CASA a number of years ago. And in addition to the young man's performance that she saw, she said, I will never forget the look of pride on his parents' faces. And that's something we really haven't spoken much about. Peter alluded to it, I think, at the end of his statement. He said, usually when my mom hears something about me, it's always bad. And it feels good for her to hear these good things about me. Her cheeks probably hurt by now from all the smiling that she does. But I know that has been, for me, some of the most kind of profoundly moving things to observe as well. I've just got countless stories that are going on in my mind right now at Williamson County and Travis County of seeing parents and parent reactions to a performance, and especially the first time seeing their child, or in some cases grandchild, or I remember meeting an uncle once, and he was the only family member in the orbit. And he had come down from Dallas to see his nephew perform. And I talked to him for a long time in the lobby afterward about, it was a range of emotions. But the first thing that he said was just how surprised he was. He said, I know what this young man's been like for the last couple of years, and I just could never have imagined that he would be up there doing something as beautiful as what he just did, and then standing up and having a whole room full of people clapping for him. And those conversations are always really powerfully emotional. And I have to say, now that I've got the microphone here, I have to say that another thing that I'm really glad that somebody had the idea to do, I don't know whose idea this was, but somebody had the idea at Gardner Betts, because the kids, after they finish performing, they leave, and so they don't get an opportunity beyond the applause for feedback from audience members. And so somebody had the idea of us putting out blank note cards for audience members to be able to write on and kind of provide that feedback. And Jeremy, I know you've taken those stacks of note cards back and read them. I wonder if you've got any memory in that regard, either with regard to parents or families, or with just sharing some of that feedback with kids.
Yeah, a lot of that came about was because I decided to start doing that because we would have at the end of the concerts, when the ones that we weren't doing for CASA, we would do like our year-end concert, like any band, orchestra, choir, guitar program would do. We would kind of send out all the non-family folks out of the courtroom, and the kids would get a handful of just some time with their families. But part of they really do such a good job. Like they it's not just this moment where you get up and watch them and you say like, oh, look how cute that is, that like they're able to do that and they put that together. And there's legitimate like moments of artistry that happen in there that are deeply moving.
Yeah.
And it's a chance for them to get feedback from like other guitarists sometimes, because we invite our patrons to come see it. And I remember, I believe it may have been a comment from Ian Tusky. Well, he was a doctoral student at UT in classical guitar, and he watched the whole thing, and he just wrote just copious notes to all of these kids, and just talking about like I wasn't doing that when I was your age. I can't believe that you're expressing so much so quickly, and for the kids to receive that. And I said, like, this is a professional guitarist, like someone that is has studied with some amazing people, and this is what he has to say about what you do. Like, he's you are a peer. This is so it gives them that feeling, and it's really fun to show up, after we kind of screen all the comments with staff or whatever, to show up at the next class with a bag of all the comments from people, and they just get to sit and read them, and we just kind of hang out and share them, and or don't share them, because it's for them. So
that praise is just so important. One of the things the kids come in with in spades is shame, a real cloaking in shame. And shame is an emotion that expresses itself very negatively. And to give them a pathway to develop pride and to get that praise, helps them shake that off. And when you're covered in shame, and you're these people that they want to make proud, their moms, their grandmothers, their uncles, fathers, brothers, little brothers and sisters especially. That's my cat Joe, by the way. So when you've disappointed these people as often as these kids feel like they have, then you're afraid to try. And that's, I think, one of the biggest obstacles to doing something so special, like expressing yourself artistically, to playing, just to playing, is being afraid to try.
What a courageous act to stand up and perform. To be able to take that chance, and
right.
You've never done before in front of 5 people or 500 people. That's really something. We have people watching from St. Petersburg, from Niagara Falls, Ottawa, Miami, Kansas City, St. Louis, St. Pete Beach, Dallas, Mesquite, Texas, Merritt Island, Columbus, Atlanta, El Paso, and Williamson County. That's right. Mr. McDowell has just informed me that we've got, he says, thanks for all the work you do for our kids at Wilco. They are watching tonight with so much joy. So big hellos to
awesome.
all the kiddos up there in Wilco. That's just awesome. And hope you loved all of it, and all of those awesome performances. And can't wait to see see the next performances from you all up there. Yeah. And so really, really pumped about that. And so I'm sure among them is the young man that played Legend for us a little bit earlier today. So I'm looking forward to hearing some more from him too, because that was a dynamite and not an easy piece. A good question just popped in, and that is the juvenile facility for boys only? And the answer to that is no. Jeremy, maybe you could speak a little bit, because you've had some.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, each facility kind of runs things differently. So at Williamson County, it's a co-ed class, whereas at Gardner-Betts, it's not. And in the past, it has been. I think sometimes it just has to do with the goals of the folks that are managing the facility, with the treatment team. Sometimes it's not a good idea to have them together. Sometimes it is. We basically just kind of go in there and work with whoever we possibly can, whoever they want to put it, whoever they think would be beneficial for us to work with. But that's not to say that we haven't worked with female residents in the past. So, I
have to say, you have a young lady that you're seeing at Gardner-Betts, Jeremy, and you gave me a wonderful gift this year when you asked if I would accompany her for one of her appearances in court. She was kind of moving from one phase to another phase in her treatment plan, as I understand it. And I had never met her before, and she was doing great in guitar with you. And she happened to be playing two pieces that I had written. I think you must have told her that you had a conversation of some kind. Anyhow, her hearing was scheduled at a time when you weren't available. I think you were teaching elsewhere in the facility. And so you asked if I could maybe come down and play with her, because these were both duets. And what a transformative experience for me. I mean, I got there, and one of the things that I'll say is, as a relative outsider, was for me, it was a confusing experience, right? Because things are coming from different places in the facility, and I didn't know if she had her music or had the guitar or the music stand, what was going to happen, or what the order of the appearances in court were going to be. And so for me, I was kind of a little on edge. And then sitting in the courtroom, I got to watch some of the proceedings, and none of them involved music or guitar, but all of them involved treatment teams, like we were talking about, people kind of reporting on their different areas of progress. And so anyway, when it was her chance to have her time up there, the judge stopped proceedings and allowed us to meet. We hadn't actually gotten to meet each other, allowed us to meet. And she was so excited and so nervous at exactly the same time. And the guitar was there, and we tuned them. And I remember sitting with her, and she said, "I'm so nervous." And she said, "I don't think I can play very loud." And I said, "Well, let's play soft." And I said, "Let's just sit for a minute. Let's breathe." And we breathed for a little while. And I said, "We're just going to put our fingers on the strings, and let's let them be soft. And let's let them be really soft. Let's just feel the string through your fingertip for a second. And now let's play 4 notes together." And we played 4 notes together. And it was like the first music that had happened in that room that day. And it was just 4 open string notes. And with that moment of unity and both of us making a sound together, something changed. And even other people, it was soft, but even everybody in the room heard it. And there was just a different level of focus. And I don't know, for me, it was a really, really profound experience. And she played beautifully, and she expressed the music with really thoughtful phrasing. And the judge was clearly very impressed and had a lot of questions about guitar and what she was interested in artistically. And I got to meet her grandfather. It was a neat day.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Can I share a little story, Matt? So,
please.
So there's this bit of like history that I just find so fascinating, and it really plays into what we're talking about. So, the UT shooter, Charles Whitman, I believe, this is decades ago, right? But my administrator right now at Gardner-Betts was actually at UT when it happened. So there was a researcher Charles Brown, who was asked to do the first like background check, basically of a mass murderer, and that was the shooter. And I don't know if it had happened before, but it was the first time that they asked at a governmental level, like, find out what happened. And so they went around, and this team of researchers, he was a doctoral student, and so he goes and he interviews Whitman's teachers and parents and neighbors, and he had been beaten as a child, and he wasn't allowed to play, and he hadn't been allowed to. He if he was found playing in the yard, he was beaten, and just kind of terrible thing. So
Yeah.
then this researcher, Charles Brown, decided to take this a little bit further, and he went to Folsom Prison, and he interviewed every inmate on death row, every capital murder inmate, and there was an incredible consistency in not being allowed to play. And so Charles Brown is now a play researcher, and that is his specialty, and he's written many books on it. It really hit me, because these children that we have, here incarcerated, who have done sometimes horrible things, they come in and they act so tough, and they front. So, I mean, it's like a full-time job. And sometimes I say, aren't you exhausted doing that? You've been, when I was teaching, like, you've been mad dogging me for weeks now, and all I'm doing is trying, to teach you something. Can you just let it go for a few minutes? It's such work. And so, and I really, there's something about the outlet of being allowed to play, and music is such a wonderful excuse, if you will, to play in an environment that really doesn't allow very much playing. It's it needs to expand so much. It needs to happen so much more often. And I know you guys are doing such a fantastic job of spreading it around, and it's just nowhere near enough yet, right? These kids just don't get to play, and it's so important.
Wow. Kim, that is such great and powerful insight. We are coming up on 8:30. And so I think that's a perfect time for us to close down this wonderful discussion that we've had. Kim, I want to thank you,
Thank you.
for being with us tonight, and thank you for many years of collaboration and support and thought leadership, and we're looking forward to a lot more, because we got work to do. And Jeremy, so proud to stand beside you, my friend, and get to experience this amazing the work that you do, to witness it when I have the opportunity. And thank you to everybody watching tonight, our supporters, and to everyone who also participated, our three wonderful interview guests, and so many people in our universe that work every day in this arena to bring these services to kids, to keep them safe, and to look at all of the aspects of personhood, and try to help people advance along the path. Do come and see us a little bit over a week from now. We'll have our 29th season finale. We'll be announcing that later this week on our newsletter, on our website, and at social media. I'm going to say good night.